Welcome to Off the Roster, brought to you by our founding partner, Proline. Must be 18 plus to bet in store, 19 plus online, and in Ontario only. I'm Lindsay, that's Dan and Cabby. And guys, what an amazing time to be a Toronto sports fan. We have a Leafs win, Raps win, and Jays, they're making moves. The vibes are high. So we're going to bring those vibes into our show today, and we're going to start off with a little Raptors talk because they have now won 8 consecutive games at home. They beat the Portland Trail Blazers, who, by the way, was the only team to actually beat OKC so far this season. Big news for Scotty Barnes before the game, but let's take a look and listen to what Scotty and IQ had to say after the win over Portland.
This was a big-time win for us. We really needed it. Like you said, dropped those 2 back-to-back. Really should have felt like we had that first one, but way to get back in the win column and finish out the game.
I'm not even.
This was a big time win for us. We really needed it. Like you said, dropped those 2 back-to-back. Really should have felt like we had that first one, but way to get back in the win column and finish out the game.
I'm not even gonna lie. I don't get into the streaks as much. I try to just focus on one day at a time, one game at a time. One workout at a time. I try to just keep it all in the moment as much as possible because the season can be so high and low. So for me, it's about staying even keeled, honestly. Every game's different.
Cabby, what's your reaction to that? I heard the man right after.
Yeah, just hit us with every single possible cliche. One shift at a time, one basket at a time. I get it because the season is so long, but that was my reaction. I was like, I remember I used to say to Kyle Lowry, because his cliche, his like go-to crutch was at the end of the day. And there was an interview I did with him. He said at the end of the day, like 11 times in one response. I was like, bro, how many more times you can hit me with at the end of the day? But anyway, it's great to see, as you said, Linz, like the squad win its 8th at home and that little 2.
They're taking media tips from their Leafs partners over there, I guess the Raptors
yeah,
are.
It seems like it. Yeah, geez.
We'll play a full 4 quarters. It will be great. We'll talk at halftime. No, I'm happy for the guys. It was a bit of a stressful game for a moment. You had Brandon Ingram leave in the 3rd quarter. It looked like he had a bit of an ankle twist, but he came back to the bench. He was available to play. We'll see what happens today. They will be practicing later this afternoon. But we have to talk a little bit about Jamal Shedd. Quickly, he had 5 steals in the first half. Yeah, he did get blocked a couple times going to put up some shots, but Emmanuel Quickly, IQ, had another fantastic game. So Dan, I'm not even going to give credit to him. I'm going to give credit to you for this. You called it.
Well, we called him out a little bit on the show yesterday, right? Like IQ needs to have a big game for the Raps, and he goes off. I think he was 5 for 5 from 3, and then he missed one in the 4th quarter there. And that's kind of what the Raptors needed because it was another game where Brandon Ingram was a little bit cold out of the gate and wasn't dropping shots. So IQ needed to have that extra bit of offense for the Raptors. They needed that lead going into the 4th quarter where they were outscored by Portland by 12. So it got a little tighter than I would have anticipated given the way the game went through the first 3 quarters. But this Raptors trend that I'm not loving is how they're playing in the 4th quarter right now. But they were able to close this one out, and that's ultimately all that matters.
Listen, Dan, these are 3 things that are giving me a boost in my serotonin. You mentioned the 4th quarter. So the Raptors survive a 10-0 run by Portland, and they close it out. So some mental fortitude, which is dope. Winning in the paint. Toronto, I wouldn't say they got belt to ass, but like in that game against the Knicks, they were the rebound differential was -21. So in last night against Portland, the Raptors responded by asserting themselves 64-50 points in the paint, which is dope. And then the rebound battle, 52-43. So winning in the paint, winning those battles, key to victory. And the third thing that puts a boost in my serotonin, the Raptors' identity continues. As a fast-paced team, they outscored Portland 25-10 on the fast break. Dudes are out, like it's a track meet in North York at the York University campus, and these guys are just getting out in transition, and they control the tempo, which is great to see. So salute to the Raps for winning their 8th straight at home and giving the fans I don't know, is it still pizza? At least get something to celebrate. And I think additionally, is it pizza or is it Taco Bell? I can't remember what they get for a 121-118 win last night.
I believe it's a pizza. I think they get a slice of pizza for the longest time. I know they got like a McDonald's small fry or something, but the crowd, they were excited. Tomorrow they will be taking on the Lakers. We get to see Luka Doncic here and LeBron James, but still focusing on what happened last night. I was happy to see Grady Dick in the locker room after doing that pose because we got the chain, we got a W. He had back-to-back threes in the fourth quarter, which you could see really boosted his confidence. But before the game, it was announced that Scottie Barnes was named the Eastern Conference Defensive Player of the Month for October and November. This is the first in franchise history, and we're overselling it because this award only was brought up last year. But Scottie yesterday, 28 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 blocks, which was a game-sealing block. Yeah, round of applause for Scottie B, or Scotties Barnes.
Scotties Barnes.
Scotties Barnes. He's been called the face of the franchise. There was a lot of skepticism around this. I know him having to do media is probably his least favorite part of being an NBA player. But how have you seen him kind of help shape this team and really kind of improve this season?
Well, his defense leads this team, and that's ultimately what he needs to be. He needs to be a force at both ends of the floor for the Raptors. And you see he did it defensively, but also, draining a few triples last night and putting up, a great night offensively is what they needed when Brandon Ingram started slow. And that's just kind of what Scottie is now. Like, he's living up to this face of the franchise and top 5 pick that he was. And it looked like it was maybe not going that way for a couple of years. But now that he's had this breakout and we're seeing what he could do, as you said the other day, Cab, this could be a guy that ends up first team All-NBA with the way that he's playing this season.
Oh, I hope so. This is part of the campaign, winning an award like this. And it's a testament to Coach Darko, but testament to Scottie. If your best player is buying into playing defense, which is all effort, you're in good shape. And, the sky's the limit for this squad.
The sky is a limit for the squad, but maybe not a couple other squads around the league. There's a couple dramatic, headlines
Sky's
happening
falling,
in the association. Maybe. The sky is falling in a couple different places. We're actually going to go with the most recent that happened in the middle of the night. If you're just waking up and you don't go on the sky is falling and people yelling at clouds app known as Twitter or X, you may not know that Chris Paul was let go of the Clippers in the middle of the night. He even put out a little note on his Instagram story with like a sign like, I just found out I'm being sent home. They were on the road in Atlanta. Now, for those who may not have been following CP3's career the last year, he's a beloved Clipper. He re-signed with this organization, announced that he was going to retire at the end of the season, and 4 days after, their social media team posted out this video about him, and they let him go. And I just think this is one of the most wild storylines I've seen in the league that's not involved in gambling in a long time. But what do you make of this, Dan? Like, this is so weird.
It is very weird. I can't believe that Chris Paul got the professional sports equivalent of the 2 a.m. breakup text because it's Chris Paul. Like, this guy is walking into the Hall of Fame and he's dedicated how much of his career to one of the worst organizations in the NBA, at least record wise over this time. Right. And it's just, I don't know. It's, everything going on with the Clippers right now, the whole Kawhi Leonard thing. And, they were supposed to be building this champion around their new arena there in LA. And it's just like the Kawhi signing hasn't worked out. Obviously, Paul George didn't work out and they gave all those assets to get him. And now they're doing this to one of, the guys that really love that franchise and tried to bring it along through some really tough years. It doesn't make any sense. The Clippers need to be better.
The word that comes to mind is unceremonious, like the most unceremonious departure for someone of his stature. And yes, it's the Clippers. Like it's just head scratching. He hasn't spoken to the media in about 2 weeks. And even when LA played in Charlotte, James Harden had that 55-point game. Charlotte's his hometown, and he didn't speak to the media afterwards. It was just kind of bizarre. And there's a whole, I'm sure the internet sleuths will go back and be like, like why didn't he speak here? Why didn't he like what's going on? And then what are these cryptic messages? And then I think he posted something on his IG about like the definition of leeway, which I'm not really sure what that means at this point. I'm sure we'll get more information as it comes, but you're right. His nickname is the point guard. He's walking into the Hall of Fame whenever he, in the 5 years that it's after, I guess 5 years from now, I suppose, because he's retiring unceremoniously. And the last thing you mentioned something about giving all those assets for Paul George, to OKC. They have the Clippers' #1 overall pick in 2026. This team is 22-1, as if they need more assets. Like, salute to Sam Presti. I mean, there has to be the Netflix doc or the 30 for 30 about him specifically is going to be unbelievable, because that guy has figured out a cheat code. I mean, the cheat code wears #1 for a squad, but the way that this GM has collected assets and run that front office has just been incredible.
I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with his jersey. And the reason I bring this up is because fans online for the Clippers Nation saying they don't have a jersey retired. Chris Paul loved the Clippers. He loved this team. And I know with the Raptors, the most and only jersey that's retired right now is Vince Carter. But so many people were expecting that Chris Paul's jersey would be retired at the end of the season. So I'm just going to put that out there. How insane would this be if this is how he's let go and then they still try to retire his jersey? If you are following us on X right now, watching us live, or hey, you might be listening to the podcast later, let us know your thoughts on this and let us know in the comments right now on YouTube. But guys, there might be a big draw coming to the Toronto Raptors, according to Raptors Nation, because add to the suspense, dun, 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 social media drama, Giannis Antetokounmpo deleting all of his Bucks-related posts on social media. And I know some statements were put out, so everyone's speculating where he's going to go, what it could be. But he's been coming to the Raptors for the last, 3 to 5 years? Dan,
that's
now
the rumor,
time. Yeah.
That's what we hope,
Well, now's the time. Why not? The Greek Freak. Just get him on the Danforth and get him back, get him into Toronto and fired up to add to this Raptors team that's on the ascension already, right? So I don't know if it's going to happen, but this is like, I don't know how many breakup stories we could have in one day in the NBA, but like, this is the I want to break up in 2025, where you start deleting all the social media posts from Giannis Antetokounmpo. And it feels a little bit sad, because he brought so much hype to that Milwaukee Bucks organization that desperately needed it, and to see the way that it's ending is not the best.
I think you mentioned, Dan, either in like before we went to air or whatnot, just like the classic move of unfollowing the team lets you know
Yes.
everything about like where the player stands with the organization and like wanting to get the bleep out. We've seen it all over, and it's like such a petty move, but that's the move. That lets us know where he's at. And the sky is
like, if you don't want to
falling
say it in front of a microphone, Cab, you do it on social media, and then everybody knows.
Yeah.
It's the bat signal.
As though no one's going
I want to
to
move
pay
on.
attention. Yeah.
Oh
Bat signal of I want to move on.
Totally.
I can't wait to see what happens with those two storylines. We will give a quick shout out or salute to SGA, who put up 38 points yesterday against the Warriors. The Thunder now on a 13-game winning streak. And right now he is on par to potentially pass Jordan. Right now he's tied with Jordan to being the two only guards to ever have 30 plus points per game and shoot 50% or better from the field in 3 straight seasons. And right now, SGA is on track to do this for a 4th season. So how happy are we? I'm just going to say, Dan, that he is Canadian and he's from just up the street in Hammertown.
I'm sorry, Lindsay, did you just say that SGA, Canada's very own SGA, is the modern day Michael Jordan? I think that's what you said by comparing those stats together.
You know what? Let's put those words in my mouth that I took from NBA PR communications and come at me all you want. I will defend SGA to the ends of the earth. So just like Photoshop my Twitter handle over and the NBA PR communications. I did say that SGA is modern day Jordan. Come at me.
It's crazy. Like the numbers he's putting up, that like they don't make sense. They're video game numbers, Cab, and I can't believe how this guy has ascended. When he was, I guess he was drafted by the Clippers. Wow, I mean another tough one for the Clippers. That Paul George trade just keeps coming back and hurting them more and more. And to see what the Thunder are doing, I mean, to follow up an NBA title, winning the Larry O'B, and seeing what they're doing now at 22-1. I mean, are we calling for them to maybe beat the Warriors season records of best regular seasons all time? It looks that way right now.
Yeah, man. Listen, this dude is on a generational one. If they get to 24-1, which they play Phoenix, and salute to Dylan Brooks, another Canadian who plays tenacious defense. He's like villain. He's totally embraced the villain role. So maybe he has to guard SGA for 40 minutes or 42 minutes, which I can't imagine how hard that would be because SGA is so silky and just scores whenever he wants. But at 24-1, that equals the Warriors. The Warriors start in 2016 and they set the record at 73-8. There's a prop bet that in our group chat that we bet that the OKC Thunder will have more wins than, what is it? No, that the Pelicans will have more losses than OKC will have wins, I think, or maybe it's vice versa. Either way, we have a season-long bet on that because, the New Orleans Pelicans is a dumpster fire. Zion's out again. But anyway, back to SGA and the Thunder. It's where it's again, I think we mentioned this before. It's the most underreported story in 2025 because it's almost like these guys clock in with a W, clock in with a W, clock in 35 points for SGA, clock in 25 for J-Dub. The team is just rolling right now. And they're not in a big market, not a sexy town, but there's like, they're an undeniable force in the NBA and they probably win the NBA Cup. And as far as the NBA Finals, listen, Philadelphia has a chance to repeat. The Philadelphia Eagles, chance to repeat Super Bowl.
I was like, what?
Florida Panthers have repeated in Stanley Cup. The Dodgers have repeated as the World Series champions. I know that's touchy around here, but like, I don't know, man. Like, we could, I'm not sure exactly when this happened last, but 4 repeating champions in the 4 majors, it's possible.
I love that our pals at our YouTube chat, Raptors Republic, just said, is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander getting the respect that he deserves? He is on this show and always will get on this show. But now we're going to give some respect to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And hey, let us know. Leave us a voicemail about, hey, do you want Giannis to come to the Toronto Raptors? I don't know. You can find the link to the voicemail in the description of all of our shows. Let us know in the comments how you're feeling about the Raptors. But the Leafs, you know what I love? A good regulation win. And I love that it was 4-1 against the defending back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, who we all know the last time the Leafs saw them was in Game 7 of the playoffs. And after, let's take a little listen to what happened in postgame.
I think skating and competitiveness. I think we're skating on pucks right away, and then super competitive in battles, forechecks, D-zone as well, just killing plays and getting things moving.
I don't do it often, so it feels nice when you get one. I told Cowan and Robertson I was going to get one tonight, and I actually did. So
nice.
The problem is I tell myself that every game. I tell somebody that, so that's to contribute.
I love that clip from Troy yesterday. We heard from Bobby right before him. But Dan, I'm curious, what is your good, the bad, and the what the heck happened in this game?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of everything here. And, I'd shout out, as he is affectionately known in Vancouver, Troy from Richmond, BC, with a big night. And he's been a huge part of this Maple Leafs team since coming over on waivers. That's a big part of the good from this game. Him and Jake McCabe as a pair, +4 last night for Troy from Richmond and Jake McCabe. And he also gets a goal and an assist. He has been huge for this team. In the absence of Chris Tanev, in the absence of Brandon Carlo, Troy Stetcher off of waivers from the Edmonton Oilers has been a godsend for the Maple Leafs. It is incredible what he's been able to do. And that was, in totality, the best performance of the season for the Maple Leafs. They dominated. They checked hard. They back-checked hard. They just didn't do anything really all that wrong throughout the course of the game, and that's absolutely what you want to see. And they were led by their captain. I know Austin Matthews doesn't get a goal last night, but I thought the Panthers barely sniffed the Leafs net when Matthews was on the ice, and that's kind of what you need to see. The goals will come, but when he's on the ice, the Leafs need to be pushing the puck forward and gaining some momentum, and they did that all night last night. That was a big part of the good from the Maple Leafs in last night's win.
Three things that bring good energy to me about the Toronto Maple Leafs. 11-2, the scoring against two Stanley Cup contenders, obviously the defending Stanley Cup champions in the Florida Panthers, and then the contenders in the Pittsburgh Penguins. Depth scoring. The Toronto players are buying into the coach's structure and the coach's philosophy, like buying into a Grant Cardone scheme. All you need is 32 units to 10x your money. But they're buying into it. And I love the team effort against Florida. Third line playing a pivotal role. Salute to Dakota Joshua. This is the second time this season he's had back-to-back games with a goal. And shout out to Scott Lawton with a decisive goal in the third period to make it 3-1. And finally, the third thing that brings good energy about the squad, Joseph Woll stopped 26 of 27 shots, .962 save percentage. Although he didn't get the belt, like the player of the game belt from the Hildeby, Dennis Hildeby.
Scotty Lawton,
that went to Scott Lawton, right? He gave his best start of the season since returning from a 1-month absence due to personal reasons. So salute to Joseph Woll and the squad. They end their 6-game road swing in Carolina, another perennial Stanley Cup contender. So perhaps we'll have good vibes in a couple days after that result.
3-1 on the road right now, and we're going to have Randy Carlyle, former coach of the Toronto Leafs. I want to say Blue Jays or Raptors right now because I'm so hyped for everybody. He'll be up in about 6 minutes time. But Dan, I laughed because I went online and someone's like, Austin Matthews is back. I'm not sure how gone he actually was. So is Austin Matthews back? Question from the fans.
Yeah, he is getting close to being fully back. I know that there's still maybe a level he needs to hit offensively, but he talked about it the other day with the media, actually, where, I feel pretty good about my defensive game. I want to be good at both ends of the rink. And really, he doesn't get enough love for how good he is defensively. Deserves some more love in Selke conversations. He's playing that way this year. He knows it's not just about the goals and assists. He's got to win his matchups every single night. He's done that all year long. The Leafs get over 60% of the goals when he's on the ice. He has been Austin Matthews, and he's getting closer to that peak elite level that the Leafs need him to be at.
Oh, I love yesterday that you also were yelling a little bit at Clouds on social media because, Dan, how much did you love that 5-forward power play by the Leafs?
Yeah, I think they need to retire the 5-forward power play unit. It just, I know that it's a touchy subject around Mitch Marner, but the biggest place that they miss Mitch Marner is on score sheets and certainly on the power play as the quarterback of that 5-forward unit and defensively as well, because the one goal they gave up was shorthanded and it was brutal. And the way Craig Berube talked about it after the game, it's not just me that's seeing the cracks in the Leafs power play. Here's the head coach.
What's that?
How patient can you be with that 5-forward look on the power play as they kind of work through things?
I became impatient quickly.
Yeah.
I get it, but the game is tight, so I switched it up. Next power play, I'm not going to put our team in that situation again. Yeah, listen, power plays, they're working through things. It's tough right now. It's not great, and all we can do is keep working through things, and hopefully something starts to really click, and it starts to get going in the right direction. Like I said, I focus on percentages on the power play. I focus on how the power play helps us every game.
Yeah, and that's a huge point from Craig Berube because, when they gave up that shorthanded goal, it's 2-0 in the game. It's a chance to put the boots, put the foot on the throat of the Florida Panthers in the game, and then they give up a shorthanded goal a few minutes later and allow the Panthers back in the game. It's the worst thing a power play can do. So it was very nice to see. Craig Berube knows that they're working through some things. They're going to keep working on it in practice. I know they spent some extra time the other day at practice on the power play. but it needs to find another level, and it's got to be a differentiating factor. They still have all the talent in the world in there on the power play unit. They've just got to find a better level.
Something I don't know if people know, but Cabby is going to the Winter Olympics, and I love your analysis right now on Austin. Thank you, Dan, for sharing that, because, as everyone around the league, so the sky is falling. But there's some not so sexy headlines surrounding hockey when it comes to the upcoming winter games, Cabby, about the rink size and are the rinks going to be ready? This tweet was put out about how it's not going to be regulation size. It's going to be NHL regulation size. It's going to be smaller by about 3 to 4 feet. There's so many rumors and stuff surrounding the games, but when you saw that, could this potentially be a good thing for the games? I have no idea. There's a lot of drama surrounding this.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but what are the actual dimensions? Because the dimensions of an NHL rink is 200 feet long and 85 feet wide. So this being smaller by 3 or 4 feet, where? In the length? Is it 198 feet? Is it 197 feet? Or is it the width? I'm obviously none of us are skating on it, so it doesn't affect us, but it's a bad look optically and in practice when the players have to play on it. But I thought maybe that this might be a good thing because there's less space and these players can, who are the most elite in the world and Canada and the United States can, can maneuver a little bit easier, but I don't know. I guess that remains to be seen. Dan, what's your read on it?
This is the Fiat Cinquecento, the Fiat 500 of NHL rinks or of hockey rinks, I guess, since it's being built in Italy. I don't know how they get this wrong. It's just you guys having too many espressos? I mean, I can say this because I'm Italian, but it's just I can't believe how they've gotten this wrong. It's you guys had one job, just build a proper hockey rink, and they haven't been able to do that, and it's barely even ready yet. So I'm curious how this goes, because if I'm an NHL GM, if I'm an NHL owner, and I'm sending my players there, I'm paying them how many millions? These are the star of star players across the league. To me, what less space means is, for the fan, maybe there's not as many goals. And from an injury perspective, could there be more injuries? There is going to be less space on the ice. These guys are all massive. They're moving at incredibly high speeds. Are we going to get more unintentional collisions on the ice as well? And I think it's overplayed how the bigger ice makes for better hockey. I don't think that actually is true. But to make the ice smaller, for me, the biggest question mark I have is it going to make things a little bit more dangerous in a game that already has high collisions, a high amount of collisions that can lead to pretty bad injuries? So that would be my biggest concern if I'm an NHL owner.
Well, we're going to keep the hockey talk going because we're joined now by a former player, former coach, Stanley Cup champion as a coach, Randy Carlyle, who I'm just going to try to brace you now, Randy. The guys are going to allow me to say whatever I want in the first 3 questions, but how are you doing this morning, sir?
Not bad. I'm out here in sunny San Diego, so it's I'm not in the brunt of winter at all. I've got 70-degree weather here today, so that's not too bad.
Nice. Oh, well, we're jealous of that sunshine, but also thank you for getting up so early to join us this morning. But Randy, on November 12th, we talked about this other day in the show, how there was these storylines about how Craig should be fired from the Leafs. You were a coach that had to put up with this kind of narrative at whatever team. And it's just such a tough job that you also have to talk to the media all the time, where sometimes we ask you crazy questions, not like what I'm going to ask you in a couple of minutes. It just seems like a terrible job. Why would you ever want to do it?
Well, I think the number one thing about becoming a coach, from my perspective, was it's the closest thing to becoming playing the game. I played for a number of years, and I got out of when I retired, and I actually got into the media for the first part of it, and then I got into management, director of player development, and then I went to the assistant coach route, and I found that it was the closest thing to being back on the ice, because you're at ice level and you're traveling with a team, you're working with a group of people. So it was very, very similar. And I think that is the thrill of it, is to get back at ice level. And yes, there is some ups and downs that do go with the job. But again, if you ask any guy that's doing it, there's only 31 jobs left in the league, or 32 jobs in the league right now. And then there's a lineup down Yonge Street. as per se, for people who would aspire to be an NHL head coach. It's one of the greatest jobs in the world. There is
When it comes to
some trying times, though, to say the least.
Oh, absolutely. Would you say one of the more trying times was trying to use a toaster oven?
Well, I guess you remember that on HBO, where that was when the outdoor games. That was always a real pain in the butt, as per se, to have these people follow you around. And then I burnt some toast one morning in the breakfast, and that became a big part of the show. So, I've been ridiculed a few times, more than once, concerning that little episode.
I just have 2 quick other videos I want to show you before I promise Dan will ask you a legit question. It's just, I'm curious how often when you're in Toronto or you're around Toronto fans, that you hear this phrase that was uttered by one of the players when you were on the team. So take a listen to this.
That's our fault. We're late. Yeah.
Where's Bosey? He didn't get you here on time, Phil?
Good one, Randy. Good one.
Good one, Randy. How often are people yelling this when you're in Toronto?
Well, it's only people like you that have actually brought that back to life.
So no one.
Anybody say that, but it's one of those things. That's the dressing room banter. That's what makes the game so much fun. Like I talked about earlier, there's always those kind of things happening in the dressing room when you have 23, 24 guys together. So being a coach and being allowed to participate in that, it's just, again, that's just one of the aspects of going back and into your playing days.
And the last thing I'm just going to bug you about is you obviously had some spicy moments on the bench or on the ice. And there's this video. Can you tell me what you're not saying here?
I was just showing my displeasure with the official, probably. That's it.
Like saying, have a great day. I hope you have a great weekend.
Yeah, and these are the things that get you in trouble with your children. Like at that time, I had a daughter in Toronto, so those aren't a lot of fun for her to show up the next day and have. What was your dad up to last night?
That's part of being an NHL head coach, right? You gotta fight for your guys, especially when the whistle's not going your way, right, Randy?
Well, exactly, and it's a pressure situation, and you're there to win. When you coach in the NHL, you're not there to develop players. You're not there to do anything other than get your wins. And however you can find useful tools, and sometimes there's intimidation, sometimes there's, coddling, sometimes there's a kick in the butt. All of those things are in your repertoire, and you have to use them on a daily basis. But the one thing about officials, they're still the best officials in the world. That's what I found. I've been involved in some of the European games and going over there and playing. If you think the officiating is bad in North America, you should try the European schedule and see what they bring to the table. I'll tell you, it's a lot different.
So it's so true. And I think far too often, we've seen it here in Toronto recently because the Leafs off to a bit of a tougher start this year. They got a couple of wins now and maybe finding their way. But, it can get really negative really fast when things aren't going well. And far too often, I think the focus is on the downside of what can happen in a big media market like Toronto, especially from a hockey perspective. But what did you love about coaching the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Well, I think it's one of the premier jobs in the league. When you go into that situation, or you better recognize, or you better know before going into it what comes with it. And there's lots of positives about coaching for the Leafs. You have everything that you could possibly think of at your disposal. The situation that they present to you, if you need something, they're never going to ever say no to you. As long as it makes common sense. So that's always a big plus when you go into it. You know that you're going to be treated first class in every aspect of it. You're going to be adored by the fan base positively and negatively in that market. You're going to have to, I guess, would be presentable to the media on a day-to-day basis is a bigger part than people recognize. When you go there, answering the questions, being available to the media, to being at their level is a lot more of a requirement than anybody ever expects. and it can wear on you in certain days. And obviously, there's people that are going to criticize you. There's people that are going to support you. It's the ups and downs of winning and losing in a market of that size that has that type of passionate fan base. And you have to understand it when you get into it. And I tried to just block it out and just try to go and be on a level playing field and just kind of be calm about it. Present yourself, say what you have to say, do your job, be respectful, and represent the hockey club the proper way.
Now, I know, we'd love to bring up good memories, but also, there's been a few Game 7 losses for the Toronto Maple Leafs in recent years. And looking back on that 2013 season, you led the team pretty good through that shortened year, and you get into the playoffs, and it looks pretty good against the Boston Bruins. You're up there in Game 7 in the third period. And I just kind of wonder, like, from the coach's perspective, like when the snowball starts rolling on you there in Game 7, do you feel a little bit hopeless? Like, how can I help these guys get themselves out of this rut and start turning the snowball the other way?
Well, again, the terminology of a snowball, rolling against you is exactly what you feel. And there's a lot of things that have happened, and you look back on it, and everybody will say, well, you should have called a timeout. You should have did this. You should have did that. Yes, I probably should have called a timeout. But the way the timeouts are structured, there's 3 of them within the one at the 14, one at the 10, and one at the 6-minute mark. And those were already in place. So we were using those to try to gather our group and to put our group back in stable position. We lost the game in overtime, and when you get to overtime in a 7th game, things can go either way. We didn't come out on the right end of it. Yeah, it's part of the history of, maybe the curse of the Leafs or whatever, but you always look back on it, and there are always some things that you look back and you say, maybe I could have done something different, but you can't change what happened. It's part of it. You put your best foot forward. You do the things that you think you're going to get you through these situations. And sometimes it's on the players. Sometimes the players, especially young players, have to go through those situations. And, they've got to be the ones that are going to make the difference out there. If there was one thing that I could say with the mistake that I made in that situation, we weren't aggressive enough. We sat back. And that was the one thing that I'm very, very sorry about, is that we didn't be aggressive just specifically off an opening draw to send 2 men in on the forecheck. No, we only sent 1. I think we would. And the other issue is I should have had some of the more seasoned offensive players probably on the ice in a couple more situations, given them an opportunity. They were our best players, and I should have had those players on the ice in a couple of more situations towards the end of the game.
It's fascinating to look back and see how the things you could have changed, and it's one of those things you'll always have a little bit of regret, but you still did some incredible things as a head coach, winning a Stanley Cup with the Anaheim Ducks. And I was thinking back to the series you had with the Ducks against the Oilers back in 2017, and that was McDavid's first playoffs, and I kind of remember how the team as a group defended. Was the message to the players like, hey, do whatever you want, just try, like, let's just see what the refs are going to call and what they aren't going to call? Because I remember the dark arts were in play there for how to defend McDavid in that playoff series.
Well, I think we were under a tremendous amount of pressure in that series because I think we beat Calgary 4 straight, so we had a week off or whatever, and we had home ice advantage, and the Oilers come in and stole 2 games in our building. So we were down 0-2 going into Edmonton. So we needed to have some sort of event or some sort of spark to turn our hockey club around, and we found a way. And Ryan Kessler was at the top of his game at that time, and we assigned a checking line to McDavid. And however you want to determine it, we tried to make him earn his ice. And what happened with a lot of it,
that's the friendly way of putting it, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt, yeah.
The league didn't actually I got a call from Gary Bettman, but it wasn't actually, it was Colin Campbell that I said, that the Edmonton was complaining in the media about the rough, tough Ducks were taking on McDavid. And I said, well, this is the NHL playoffs. This isn't white glove treatment. And I got a little bit of a reprimand for that. If there was any more of those those are the kind of things that happen inside the series. But we found a way to come back. We did a face-off play in the defensive zone to score the goal that a lot of people wouldn't have picked up. We actually had a defensive zone face-off where we changed a winger in the defense door, and Raquel went out the other door for an advantage and got in behind their defense and scored the opening goal. And we got up 3-0 in the third game in Edmonton. So it kind of shifted the momentum in our favor. But people don't remember those positive things as much as they remember the negative things that happened.
Thank you for that little nugget. We're going to have to watch some game tape to revisit that moment. I'm going to take you back a little bit here, Randy. You played in an era where Bobby Orr, Paul Coffey, even like Brian Leach were smaller in stature defensemen with elite offensive skill. And then the game evolved. You had huge hulking defensemen like Pronger, Zdeno Chara, Nick Lidstrom, who played physical with these big booming shots. And then the cycle sort of reverted back to elite offensive talent on the blue line with Erik Karlsson, Quinn Hughes, and of course, Cale Makar. In your opinion, does the game miss these big hulking defensemen who played physical with big booming shots, or is the game in a good spot with these offensive-minded, like elite talents who are running the like playing quarterback at the PP1?
Well, I think you have to, take your hat off to the young players that have the ability. You talk about a Quinn Hughes, you talk about a Cale Makar. These players are playing the game at a very, very high level, and they can do things that, a lot of people can't do. But I still think there is room for the big stay-at-home defenseman to defend. If you look in the first 20 games of the season, now the teams that are having success are scoring their ways to success, and a lot of them. And you'll see that the league will start to change once the 20 game, now you get into Christmas and New Year's, and then the All-Star break will be the next point where you'll see the teams defensively will tighten up. And that's really the reality. It seems like there's a tale of two seasons in the NHL. Is that there's the regular season, and then the playoff teams find a way to defend to a higher level. It becomes a lot smaller rink out there. There's a lot more, as I say, not necessarily interference, but it's more about being inside and on your check. And then the big stay-at-home defenseman that can defend has a prime position on your lineup. And I think the teams that have the mixture are the most successful teams if you look at the back ends. And most teams can't win without goaltending as you go forward. I think last night's game with the Leafs and the Panthers, watching that from here, Wall, the goaltender, made 5 or 6 big saves to keep Toronto in the game. I think they were being outshot 6-1 or at some point, and Wall stood on his head and made a couple of 9-bell stops and gave the opportunity for the Leafs to get their feet underneath them, and then their grittier players found a way to make a difference. Stetcher comes in and scores a goal from the point. Small stature defenseman that can move the puck. But, without him in there, they would have had to go to a younger player. So there's a room for, I think, the mixture of players that can, you always have to have people that can run a power play and move the puck effectively. 2, you have to have people who can defend and defend with aggressiveness in your defensive zone.
Sorry, I misspoke. I meant to say on the PP1, not at the PP1. And you're right. Joseph Wall had a nice save against Sam Reinhart is one that pops into my head. Have you formed any relationships with other famous Randys as a professional hockey player? And I have a list of famous Randys. There's Randy Travis, Randy Jackson, and then in athletes, Randy Moss, Randy Johnson, and then in arts and entertainment, Randy Newman or Randy Quaid.
That's a new one. That's a new list for me. I have no relationship with any of the above.
Okay. All right. Well, just checking. Just wondering. Listen, you run in different circles than we do. So maybe there was a charity event or some random encounter in Nashville where you could either see Randy Johnson or Randy Travis or whatever. And last one for you, Coach. If a player on the bench had tried to hand you an iPad back in the day after a terrible shift, but showed you the positive, advanced analytics about that shift, would you have cracked the iPad over your knee or over that player's helmet?
Well, I'm sure if it would have been a positive clip, I would have wanted to see it. But if it was a negative one, that might have happened. Usually the player does know when he screws up and when he makes a mistake. And sometimes I think it's that you don't really need to see it again. You understand what you've done out there. But I think, again, it's another tool. These players are becoming, every day that's part of their game plan now. And the iPad is on the bench. As a coach, we don't have it on the bench as per se, but it's usually in the floor. As you see the replays, there's a camera on the floor, so we get to look at everything. Everybody's got their head down, gawking at the floor, and everybody's wondering what's going on. Well, that's where our video is provided to us. But video has become a great tool, and I think that the players have adapted to it. But that's all part of the change. That's the evolution of the game, and it's a positive, I think.
So you would not have broken the iPad over the head. Okay.
No, I would have broken it.
Just making sure.
I didn't want to get rid of that thing. Get it out of my face.
Randy, you did mention Joseph Woll there. I gotta ask, like, do you think Joseph Woll was just okay last night, or? Yeah,
that's one of those sayings that I never really got credit. I'm not receiving any royalties for just okay. I didn't really take off the way it did, and I see commercials on TV. It's just okay, and I used that once with James. I don't know. I think that was where I was. Some boxer was going to make a comeback and challenge me to go in the ring with him over that.
Wow!
Right? Those are crazy things that happen in a market like Toronto.
Yeah, you never know what might just like pop off from what you say after a game in Toronto. And there's been a lot of talk. Like we've seen some video of Craig Berube and William Nylander going. I'd say it's a little bit of a give and take between coach and player on the ice, and there's always questions about that. I wonder if you feel like maybe it's similar to the relationship you had with Phil Kessel here in Toronto, where offensive player, you got to have a little bit of give and take and make sure you both understand what you need out of each other.
Yeah, for me, there always is got to be some give to the player. They're only human. They're trying to do the best they can, and you as a coach, sometimes you become coach the positives as much as you coach the negatives, and that's the thing that you got to learn. That they're human beings. It's not like they're out there not trying to do a positive thing. The issue is how you present it to them and how you talk to them. Skilled players get more rope. Simple as that. When Phil was there, Phil scored a ton of goals off that offside on the wing on the power play. He did not want to move from that position. We tried to move him, but he'd stamp his feet and he'd always end up that he'd be over there. He scored, numerous power play goals from that position. We tried to move him to the other side. He just wasn't comfortable going to the other side. So we left him, and instead of fighting with the individual, you might as well just concede that that's where he wants to be. He's a skilled player. He delivers in those situations. So let him be. Let him have his space on the ice.
Well, Randy, we appreciate your time today and putting up with my ridiculous questions. Enjoy the sunshine because we sure don't have any right now, but thanks for being here, Randy.
You're welcome. Well, I'm going to have a little taste of it next week. I'm going back to Ontario for a week, so just for a little taste, but it's only 1 week and I'll be back in San Diego, so take care.
Right. Thank you, Randy. That is former Toronto Maple Leafs head coach and champion coach with Anaheim Ducks, who currently have one of the worst jerseys, Randy Carlyle. I'm not going to bring that up again. I know. I was going to ask Randy, but we kept him on long enough. But what we're going to celebrate right now is the Toronto Blue Jays making it official that Dylan Cease, $210 million over 7 years, a bunch of deferrals. It goes on and on and on. But today there is a new episode of the show, 6-Inning Stretch, which crazy. I co-host that with former Blue Jay Whit Merrifield. And I asked him about the Dylan Cease deal, and it's a big price tag. Here was his reaction to it becoming official.
I think it's a great signing. I think Dylan is an incredible pitcher. He's a workhorse. He's durable. And he's a proven guy that's going to be top, if not top 3 guy in the league every year in strikeouts. So now you have your 1 and 2 are these 2 strikeout dominant pitchers that you have spearheading your rotation, and you get to have these 2 guys help bring up a guy like Trey. I think it's a great signing. Do I think it's an overpay? Absolutely. That's why he signed in November, because Boris was like, hurry up and sign the papers before they changed their mind. That's not a bad thing.
He goes on to say it's not a bad thing because, there has been this stigma a little bit around signing with Toronto Blue Jays and Canadian teams, because especially in Toronto, the taxes, they're really high. And when it comes to borders and traveling and all that, he goes on to talk about Toronto and Seattle and just explains why they're paying so much. But that's a great sign for Toronto Blue Jays fans about how they're being so aggressive. And then right after our podcast dropped, I'm saying we might be bringing good vibes, because every time this happens, they sign somebody else. It's reported, it is not official, that they've signed KBO MVP Cody Ponce to a 3-year deal at $30 million. It is going to be his first time back in Major League Baseball since 2021. Many surprised by this. It's, of course, pending a physical, but it's the largest ever for a former big leaguer to return to MLB. That's according to Mitch Bannon from The Athletic. So, Dan, what do you make of this reported signing?
I, again, love it. It's just like, it's not my money. So for me, it's an expensive chance on a guy that wasn't having success in Major League Baseball and had to go play elsewhere to find success. He didn't even have success when he played in Japan. And then he goes to the KBO and he's all of a sudden the MVP. Did he find something? I don't know. I'm not watching too many KBO games. So I don't know if he developed a new pitch or what pitch he developed. It sounds like he's got an extra couple ticks on the fastball, which is nice to see. And I imagine they've got some analytics that say, hey, this will track. This will translate to Major League Baseball and what he's been throwing out there to have so much success in the KBO. But what I love about this Blue Jays offseason is just like, yeah, we're going to pay the market price or higher than the market price to get what we think is going to help us get back to the World Series. So Dylan Cease, did they overpay? Sure, but they got ahead of it and they got it done before anybody else. With Ponce, people were like, yeah, this might be a bargain of free agency. Well, there's no bargain here. We're just going to pay him what he's looking for, and we're going to hope that it works out. It has question marks for sure. It's not a guarantee, but you know what? If you have the money, go out and spend it, and let's see if it works.
Listen, Dan, we are going to be paying. It is our money, because if we subscribe to a certain telco, then those incremental charges will appear on our bill.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's fair. Like every 8 months or 11 months. Yeah, seeing Dylan's highlights from the KBO, 105 pitches for 18 Ks, and the changeup was nasty. One thing I do want to know, and I don't know who we can get from Deloitte or Ernst & Young, but like so Dylan Cease's money, $64 million, is deferred, but he's getting the signing bonus paid to him in Ontario, California versus Ontario, Canada, I think, and being able to skirt some of the I don't know how that works, but whether it's on Boris's side or whether it's, again, some nerd at Deloitte or some AI program, like that's pretty savvy to save the dude on paying taxes in Canada versus paying them in California. I need someone to unpack that eventually.
I'll see if I can find somebody at the winter meetings in Orlando this week.
Liz.
I will be there, where Dylan Cease will be having his first media availability with the Toronto media. I'm curious to see what he has to say about the signing. Scott will be there. Let's see if we can get a couple questions to him. But I want to bring up this picture.
He loves to talk.
Ponce.
You will. You definitely.
Oh, I know. Cody Ponce asking for Ryu's autograph. Look at this. So people are saying,
nice.
The writing was on the wall. This happened back in May. So I am excited for this. I'm excited to see the fan base surround him. I'm excited when this officially becomes official to see what will happen and what this means going forward for the Toronto Blue Jays when it comes to Max Scherzer, who's also Scott's client, and then with Chris Bassett. But I don't even want to talk about that because it's going to make me emotional. But fun fact, we will be having George Springer on the show tomorrow, so make sure to tune in for that if you are watching. Yeah, on Twitter right now, you can leave us some comments.
Well done.
On YouTube about this signing, how you're feeling. I would love a spicy voicemail from someone. You can find the link in our description. Just I know a lot of people are unsure of this signing. Like Dan just mentioned, it is a little bit risky. The guy hasn't been in Major League Baseball for a couple of years, but I love a comeback story, and the Jays obviously do too. That was pretty much their entire year, and every player they've invested in this last season, it's went pretty well. Just saying, look at Addison Barger, Nathan Lucas. But right now, guys, it's time for our Proline pick of the day. When watching your favorite sports, make things interesting with Proline. Must be 18 plus to bet in store and 19 plus to bet online with Proline Plus. You also must be in the province of Ontario at the time of play, so please play responsibly. Dan, what do we have today?
Well, I'm looking at the Winnipeg Jets and Montreal Canadiens game, and I love taking a stroll down Narrative Street, as I like to call it. And the narrative today is that the Winnipeg Jets are coming off a players-only meeting following their loss to the Buffalo Sabres. And you know what happens after a players-only meeting? The guys have a little bit more juice to find one in the win column. So I'm looking at Mark Scheifele to lead his team to better days ahead, and he's going to get an anytime goal tonight against the Montreal Canadiens. That's what we're riding with on Narrative Street today.
I like Narrative Street. I need a condo there. Same game. I'm going to go Caulfield. Hasn't scored at home in a few games. That's where he scores most of his goals. I'm going to lock in a goal Caulfield goal from that left slot or that left circle where he likes to operate and do his best work. So Eric Comrie, I believe, we don't know yet at the time of this recording, but Eric Comrie, I believe, will be the goaltender tonight. So goal Caulfield didn't score last night. Salute to Nick Suzuki, his line mate, and actually Slavkovsky scored, I think, as well. But goal Caulfield, that's my pick tonight for the Proline pick of the day.
Okay, we'll see what happens tonight. Now, Friday, big day, FIFA World Cup draw, whatever the hype is surrounding this, but they announced the entertainment lineup, which I think is more random than the three of us becoming awesome best friends, which I am here for, guys. But this is the lineup for the World Cup draw. You have co-host Heidi Klum and Kevin Hart. I don't even know who the actor is because I'm not cool. You have performers.
Danny Ramirez, of course, we all know him.
Yeah.
I know him very well. He's great. He's in
Top Gun Maverick, no?
Oh, is he in that? Okay, Top Gun Maverick. All right.
I'm going to type in Danny Ramirez right now and say, yeah, I still don't know who that is because I am not cool. But Andrea Bocelli, amazing. Robbie Williams.
Italian approved. He's Woodbridge approved. He's Woodbridge approved.
This is so random, but like you have Nicole Scherzinger, who I love. She, you could say, was the front person for Pussycat Dolls, and she's become a Broadway star, but she has not had a single on the radio that's even been top 10. That's by herself, I think, ever in North America. She is a star. She is fantastic. But then you also have the Village People, which, to be honest, I'm not sure if it's all the founding members. I think a lot of them has passed away, and I think there might only be one or two, and they're in their mid to late 70s. So I am looking forward to seeing the YMCA. But guys, what is this lineup? And who would you rather have, maybe, Dan? Like, I like all of them, but it's just it is like everything was leftovers in the kitchen, and you threw it all into a pot and said, okay, this is what we got.
Little gumbo, little stew.
Yeah, it's just it's a little minestrone. I don't know. It's an interesting collection. Just anybody relevant musically in 2025 would have been nice to have here at the World Cup in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's not even really a Canadian vibe at all to this. You know, like given that it is.
There isn't one.
We're hosting it, it's just like, could we have a Canadian as part of the musical acts for the draw here on Friday? It's an interesting collection, and interesting is just a nicer way of saying a collection I wouldn't have picked.
I wonder if, like, there were rumors, I want to say like 6 months ago, that FIFA was going to try to duplicate the Super Bowl halftime show. And it was rumored that Drake would be this performer. And this is coming on the heels of Kendrick Lamar being the Super Bowl halftime performer last game, Philly versus Kansas City. Yeah. So obviously we don't know where that's at, but I feel like this is going to change because we're December 2nd. Opening ceremony is like June, 1st or something like that. There's still 6 months. And I know, like, having the Village People on there appeases a certain president of the United States who likes to, have his bop to that particular to YMCA and that group. But I think this might change because it definitely needs some more firepower, and it's already a global event like the Olympics, and I think it's going to change. I mean, I'm hopeful that
this is for the draw on Friday, so I don't know if this is
not for the actual opening ceremonies.
No, the opening ceremony.
I think opening ceremonies will bring out. I think we might have.
Okay, well, there's some hitters.
Who knows?
Yeah, there'll be some hitters for the. Okay, my bad. This is just Friday. This is just the announcement. Okay, so it's not as bad. I thought for a second it was like the actual opening ceremonies. Oh no, they'll have some hitters. I mean, it's FIFA. FIFA has more money than friggin' our Lord and Savior. You know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much.
I was going to say Elon Musk. I'm sorry. Bad joke. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm curious to what who would they like to see there. I would love Ricky Martin, who I know it kind of was his breakup moment back in 1998. Yeah, the cup of life. This is the one.
We need new content. We need new content, not 20-year-old
Seriously,
content.
what are you? Are you 71 on a cruise? Like, what's going on, Liz?
I don't know. My favorite show is Golden Girls, and I love Dean Martin. So probably we'll see. I would let us know in the comments who you would like to see perform potentially at the opening ceremonies, because that's where Cabby went. Or if you want to see who would perform this Friday, in the comments, subscribe to us on YouTube. And tomorrow, like we mentioned, we have George Springer, but we also have Jason Blake. Thank you so much for joining us for today's edition of Off the Roster.
Hope you enjoyed this video. If you want more Off the Roster content, make sure to like and hype this video and subscribe to the Nation Network YouTube channel.